Looking back, the second atomic explosion experiment carried out in 1998 and the inside story. Under cover of darkness, one of the nuclear devices tested on May 11, 1998 is lowered into a shaft at Pokhran, Rajasthan. In their battlefield fatigues, they appeared like aging heroes in a Bollywood potboiler, especially as they sat waiting and sweating in the makeshift control room, a tiny bunker littered with an array of computers and control panels with press button switches in bright red, green, and orange. One of the panels activated by the turn of a key in a lock started a countdown timer which precisely at 9 a.m. on May 11 would have sent a tiny electrical current to trigger a series of explosions that would shake the world. An hour before that, the range meteorological officer, clearly uncomfortable with his disguise as Captain Adi Marjban, walked in without saluting the two generals seated on plastic chairs and told them that an unexpected wind had started blowing. The mission, he said, had to be put on hold till the wind died down. The direction in which it was blowing could send any accidental radiation fallout from the blasts towards nearby villages. By noon, the wind still had not abated and the outside temperature was a searing 43 degrees Celsius. R. Chidambaram, Atomic Energy Commission chairman, dressed as Major General Nataraj, removed his Gorkha hat to stop the sweat from streaming down his face. On his left, APJ Abdul Kalam, scientific advisor to the defense minister and chief of the Defense Research and Development Organization DRDO, also incognito, sat impassively. Action stations. The tense top brass meet at the control room to discuss the holdup because of high velocity winds. For Operation Shakti, as the tests were called, Kalam was known as Major General Prithviraj, but the mane of silvery white hair that struck out incongruously from his hat was a dead giveaway. All this was part of the extraordinary precaution the team had taken to prevent news of its frequent visits to the Pokhran range in Rajasthan from leaking out. With the range storming with the army personnel, it made sense for scientists and engineers to don uniforms so that they could move around without attracting attention. Kalam's nom de guerre, especially, may not have been politically appropriate because with Pakistan's recently launching its long range missile Gauri, named after the Afghan king who in medieval times defeated Prithviraj Chauhan, a Rajput Raja. But the team's code names had been chosen way back in the winter of 1995 when it had come together to conduct three nuclear explosions. They had to be aborted because news of the preparations leaked out and then Prime Minister P.V. Narasimha Rao backed down in the face of international pressure. The bomb team put together in 1995 was not disbanded. Although the plutonium core used in most atom bombs is the size of a tennis ball, to extract the metal and machine it to the size requires an ingenious combination of physics, chemistry, and the most sophisticated of engineering techniques. Then, to design the device so that it can be delivered accurately and explode on target with a horrendously powerful burst of energy requires awesome computational expertise apart from precision mechanics. What Pokhran 2 demonstrated was more than just that. In 1974, when India exploded its first nuclear device, the primary aim was just to see whether we can do it. Indian scientists have demonstrated that they can build a nuclear arsenal ranging from a big hydrogen bomb capable of flattening an entire city to smaller fission type ones that could pulverize an army regiment in a battlefield. In the mid 80s, Indian intelligence began to pick up worrying reports about Pakistan's growing nuclear capability, assisted by China and winked at by the US. So, in 1988, when it was evident that Pakistan had the capability to make nuclear bombs, then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, who ironically had just advocated a global plan for nuclear disarmament at the UN, gave the go ahead for the weaponization of India's research capability. Till that order, India's nuclear weapon capability had slowed to crawl. After the 1974 test and Indira Gandhi's defeat in the 1977 elections, the new Prime Minister Morarji Desai was not too keen to sharpen the option. Meanwhile, atomic energy scientists had started working on an improved version of the nuclear device used in the first test and also were ready with what is called a boosted fission device. Indira Gandhi okayed more nuclear tests in the year 1982-83. Three shafts were dug, the same that were used for the current round of tests. But at the last minute, Indira Gandhi told the scientists to call it off. One version was that the test plans were deliberately leaked out and Indira Gandhi decided against it, fearing economic sanctions from Western countries. The real problem was not that India did not know how to make bombs. It was how to build them to a size that fitted into an aircraft bomb pod, ruggedize the device to take the stress of carting and incorporate safety mechanisms to ensure that they do not go off accidentally. The 1974 device was said to be so heavy that only a transport aircraft could deliver it, which would make it a sitting duck. So, when Rajiv Gandhi gave the go ahead, the DRDO, which initially provided only the implosion mechanism, began to get involved in a big way for the first time. Finally, India's two giant scientific establishments, which had operated in relative isolation, began to synergize their strengths, and the results began paying off. By 1989, India had refined its ability to drop nuclear bombs using combat aircraft. By the time the 1995 tests started, the DRDO and the Atomic Energy Team had made major design changes in the bomb, reduced its weight considerably, and increased its yield. The West's worst fears had been confirmed. India had reached a high on the nuclear learning curve. So, when news of the impending 1995 tests leaked out, PV Narasimha Rao backed down under US pressure, but he left instructions with the team: be prepared to carry out the tests at a month's notice. Both H.D. Devagowda and I.K. Gujral, the prime ministers who succeeded Rao, did not alter that state of readiness. So, when Vajpayee gave them the green signal on April 10, just 22 days after he assumed office, within hours the core group of 100 odd scientists and engineers packed their bags and headed to Pokhran. D Day was fixed for exactly a month later, or as Kalam put it, T minus 30 days. The team maintains that the date of the tests, May 11, was not deliberately chosen to coincide with Buddha Purnima. The scientists were, in fact, ready to test a week earlier, but held back for a simple reason. President K.R. Narayanan was out of the country and was to return only on May 10. It would have looked odd to carry out such a test when the head of the state was on a foreign tour. The manner in which the plutonium cores for the 5 tests were carted is an example of confident planning. 10 days before the tests, an Indian Air Force AN-32 took off from Mumbai's Santa Cruz Airport at night. Considering the cargo it carried, the security precautions were almost negligible. A couple of stun gun wielding commandos guarded the half a dozen wooden crates similar to the ones apples are shipped in. Inside those carts, protected by metal shield, were perfectly shaped spherical balls of explosive grade plutonium, finely crafted by India's premier nuclear establishment, the Bhabha Atomic Research Center at Trombay. Each weighed between 5 to 10 kg. At Jodhpur, 2 hours later, a convoy of trucks lined up at the airport and the crates were placed inside one of them. To make it seem a routine movement, no extra security was provided as the convoy sped to the range under the cover of darkness. Once at Pokhran, the crates were moved to makeshift labs where other packages containing conventional explosives, detonators, and triggers had been flown in, and scientists began assembling the various components of the devices. They worked mostly at night to avoid detection by snooping satellites. For R. Chidambaram, the chief designer of the Shakti round of tests, it was a vast improvement from the manner in which plutonium was carted when Indira Gandhi carried out its first tests in 1974. Chidambaram, who played a key role in 1974 tests, recalls that then the plutonium crate was ferried by road. Since the scientists did not want to take any chances, Chidambaram hopped aboard the convoy of army trucks and stayed with it during 2 day harrowing journey through the desert. This time too there was a fair share of snafu. 2 days before the May 11 tests, when scientists and engineers descended into one of the shafts to carry out routine checks, the power failed. For 5 hours, they were trapped inside till the electricity returned and the lift started working again. No one, however, complained. Then, on the night, they began sealing the explosive chambers with cement and sand. A bulldozer accidentally sent a boulder rolling dangerously towards the shaft. Fearing that it would damage the device laid deep below, an army jawan dived forward and clung onto it while his mates held on to his legs. Such was the motivation to get the job done that none of the team members reported sick. Some, like Anil Kakodkar, director of BARC, Baba Atomic Research Center, weathered personal tragedy to keep their commitment. His father died on May 2 and Kakodkar could only rush back for a day to conduct the funeral rites. There was no time even to grieve. For R. Chidambaram and Kakodkar, each of the five nuclear devices posed a challenge both in terms of design and construction, but the humdinger was the hydrogen bomb. It involved extremely tricky high pressure physics with precision engineering, a major advancement over the conventional atom bombs that they had been making. The technology was perfected only in the mid 90s after they solved a high energy physics problem of focusing the extreme temperatures to generate a fusion reaction that releases yield 10 to 15 times that of atom bombs. Thank you for listening. Now some of the words and their meaning. In their battlefield fatigues, they appeared like aging heroes in a Bollywood potboiler. Potboiler means a film or a book, usually of low quality, that has been created quickly just to earn money. A tiny bunker littered with an array of computers. Array means an impressive display of particular type of things. The mission, he said, had to be put on hold till the wind died down. Put on hold means temporarily not being dealt with. By the noon, the wind still had not abated and the outside temperature was a searing 43 degrees Celsius. Abated means make less intense. Searing means extremely hot. On his left, APJ Abdul Kalam, scientific advisor to the Defense Minister and Chief of the Defense Research and Development Organization, also incognito, sat impassively. Incognito means concealing one's true identity. Sat impassively. Impassive means not feeling or showing emotion. The tense top brass meet at the control room to discuss the hold-up because of high velocity winds. Hold-up means delay. For Operation Shakti, as these tests were called, Kalam was known as Major General Prithviraj. But the mane of silvery white hair that stuck out incongruously from his hat was a dead giveaway. Incongruously means strange and out of place, unusual. With the range storming with the army personnel, it made sense for scientists and engineers to don uniforms. Don means to put on. Kalam's nom de guerre may not have been politically appropriate. Nom de guerre means a name chosen by someone to use when he or she is involved in a particular activity, especially fighting in a war. Although the plutonium core used in most atom bombs is the size of a tennis ball, to extract the metal and machine it to the size requires an ingenious combination of physics, chemistry, and most sophisticated engineering techniques. Ingenious means clever, original, and inventive. For Chidambaram and Kakodkar, each of the five nuclear devices posed a challenge both in terms of design and construction, but the humdinger was the hydrogen bomb. Humdinger means a remarkable person or thing, excellent or outstanding. Thank you very much.